What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Courtroom. We've got a kind of a big update in the trial over the alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk. Now, whomever you believe is responsible, whether you believe it was a military strike, whether you believe they got the wrong guy, whether you believe, I think we can all agree that the trial is going to be pretty important. It'll probably be the biggest, most important trial of our lifetime. And just because of so many of the implications, right? Look, we've got content creators out there stating as a fact it wasn't Tyler Robinson. Maybe they were right. Maybe. I haven't been convinced, but a lot of people have been. And that doesn't make me more right or you more right, because we've all seen all of the actual evidence. You know, there is a ton of evidence that needs to come out that we haven't seen yet. And now there was a gag order placed that a lot of people are reacting very strongly to that could potentially apply to up to 3,000 people. Now, the first thing I see a lot of people talking about is how this is crazy and this has never been done before. That's simply not true. For example, in the Carmelo Anthony case, where you had many witnesses, there was a gag order placed there. There was the person in Wisconsin. This is actually very common because they're trying to protect the jury pool. They're trying to protect the trial, right? The rights of the accused. In fact, however, this one does appear to be a little bit different. So let's look at it. And look, if you want me to feed into various theories out there, I'm not good at that. That's not my thing. But what I try to do is try to take the biggest story here and try to explain it from as rational of a position as I can. It says gag order issued in Charlie Kirk's assassination case. A Utah judge has issued a gag order in the state versus Tyler Robinson, restricting lawyers from making public statements that could affect the trial. By the way, again, contrary to what a lot of people are saying, this happens all the time, especially in cases of high profile, where you're trying to preserve a jury pool, where you're trying to preserve the trial, right? Again, Carmelo Anthony, same thing. No one was saying that was a crazy conspiracy theory when it happened to Carmelo Anthony case, right? No one was saying, I mean, it's happened all the time. The order filed in Utah's 4th District Court bars attorneys from either side from releasing extrajudicial comments that could prejudice proceedings. Again, this is to protect the rights of Tyler Robinson, quite frankly. Robinson faces multiple charges. This case has drawn major attention after commentators vowed to defy the order. Now, this person, Mario Nafal, is talking about Candace Owens. However, the gag order does not apply to Candace Owens. Again, we live in a post-truth era where Candace Owens tweeted this out: "Don't worry about the gag order in the Charlie Kirk case. I plan to violate it on the world's behalf." This tweet got nearly 200,000 likes. I can't compete. She is one of the best marketers. She may be the best in the game at this. Full stop. No sarcastic put down. The gag order never applied to Candace Owens. She knew it didn't apply to her, but nonetheless, her millions of viewers took that as her defiantly sticking it to the judge, when again, it did not apply to her at all at any point. Now, she also claims that the things I've discovered in the past week are enough to burn the house down. Yes, Charlie was betrayed by everyone. So, of course, the implication here is that TPUSA, I assume, or military. I can't keep up with everything that's going on her show. She's presented some very interesting theories that I hope, quite frankly, get addressed at trial. And that's all we can hope for. Now, people obviously say, I genuinely believe that Candace Owens would happily cause a mistrial for Tyler Robinson. Then use that mistrial as proof he wasn't found guilty, so it couldn't have possibly been the killer. Candace Owens is totally fine with destroying TPUSA. Again, I don't know. I don't know if she thinks about that kind of stuff. And quite frankly, she's allowed to have an opinion. She's allowed to, talk about her theories 100%. You see, the gag orders are extremely common in large trials of this nature. And the only thing that makes this unique is that it occurred in front of up to 3,000 potential witnesses. However, this order only applies to those witnesses who have been notified of their participation in the trial. So essentially, the gag order is a nothing burger. But that wouldn't stop a lot of people from pretending that they were being targeted by it. Again, here, Daniel J. Williams writes, they did the exact same thing with the trial involving the heroic young man from Wisconsin, if I remember correctly. Is it because it's a high-profile case? Now, more information on it, to provide more in-depth information on this. What's interesting about the gag order, though, is over the weekend, it was discovered that the judge, Spencer Cox appointee, issued a gag order restricting lawyers, law enforcement, and the 3,000 attendees. I understand attorneys, law enforcement, and maybe key witnesses, but all 3,000 attendees seems odd, and I agree with that. This order bans, quote, extrajudicial statements that have a substantial likelihood of materially prejudicing the trial. Per Utah rule of professional conduct, this includes any public statements, whether to the media, on social media, or in public forums that could influence potential jurors or compromise a fair trial. Again, that's why they issued it. For the 3,000 event witness attendees, this means they cannot discuss case-specific details like what they saw, heard, or knew about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, again, that's once they've been identified as a witness. Now, I don't know if they have the names of everyone there, but what's interesting, what's curious about this is, millions witnessed it online. So I'm not sure how effective this gag order is really going to be. Here's the problem. There's no documented U.S. case that has applied a gag order to this magnitude with no direct role in the investigation or litigation. Previous gag orders typically target attorneys, court staff, and select witnesses. So again, MJ Truth Ultra wants to just say, well, this has never happened before, which again is simply not true. I point you to the gag order in the Carmelo Anthony case, which is, in the last 6 months. Now it is, again, you see, preventing a mistrial and preserving the rights of the accused. Important to note, there is not a gag order on anyone until they are actually identified as a key witness. And this is why, at a press conference about UT versus Tyler Robinson, Utah prosecutor Jeff Gray read aloud the private text interviews and alleged confessions before their trial and called them facts. Here's the video.
There is a substantial amount of discovery in this case, Your Honor. It's voluminous, to say the least.
His lawyers entered their formal appearance and declined to waive his right to a preliminary hearing. Judge Tony Graff has issued a gag order preventing anyone associated with the case from talking about it. It's to avoid pretrial publicity, already a big problem in a case with massive media exposure involving a high-profile figure like Charlie Kirk. But the judge wants to ensure a fairer trial for Robinson. It's also brought up a big issue involving thousands of people.
We're seeking some clarification with respect.
Now, here they're going to talk about the 3,000. Now, I know my videos on this, trying to provide some context will never be as popular as, videos that, claim people use tunnel systems underneath and palm guns and all this kind of stuff. That stuff's just more interesting. I totally understand that. But I'm going to pick my spots in covering this trial and try to stick to the facts. In fact, I'm also going to hopefully send Hannah Claire Brimlow from my live stream to be on location for the trial during the trial and cover and get somebody on the scene, or see if I can sponsor a lawyer to go sit in the room and report back to us exclusively on what's going on in the courtroom, although they did say it will be aired.
To the phrase all witnesses, Your Honor, there are a number of witnesses that have yet to be identified that would likely be used in the state's case. This occurred in front of 2,000 to 3,000 students at Utah Valley University. So we're in the process of identifying those witnesses. And so those individuals are presently unknown right now.
The court will rule that as the witnesses become known to each side, that information is conveyed to abide by this order.
There you go. So, yes, there are 3,000 witnesses, However, here is the proof. The judge specifically said, no, it does not apply to all 3,000 people there. Once somebody has been identified as a witness in the case, then it will apply to them. This is exactly the same as with Carmelo Anthony and many other high-profile trials. Now, again, I am very much looking forward to this trial. I hope it happens quickly because there are a lot of questions to be answered. In particular, there's a lot of questions about exit wounds. There's a lot of questions around whether or not it was a 30-06. There's a lot of questions around was there a second shooter? There's a lot of and look, I can't refute the claims that other people are making until we get a trial where evidence is actually brought to light.
Obviously, there are potentially many witnesses, and so it's not the expectation that you would be able to do that up front, but as they become known.
The judge made it clear he wants to ensure Robinson's constitutional rights will be.
This is, again, here's MJ Truth Ultra, who literally posted the video, okay? Then they're like, wait, I don't get it. How come the witnesses, not 3,000 people? They didn't even watch their own video where the judge very clearly says, no, this does not apply to all 3,000. It applies to who has been identified as a key witness. That key witness will be communicated to the prosecution and or the defense or vice versa. And then the gag order will apply to them. I get it. This isn't as exciting. It doesn't, it's not as, it's not as spicy as other commentators are saying. Now, if they suddenly say, hey, Candace Owens is a witness and apply a gag order to her, well, now we got a story. Now we got something more potentially interesting, more spicy. But right now, this gag order is totally normal. Candace Owens is, in fact, not violating anything. And she's expertly playing people who have a lot of questions about this trial. And I think, hey, look, do your job. Ask your questions, see what you can find out. I happen to believe you are completely wrong about almost everything, but I can't disprove what you're claiming, and all I can do is wait for the trial. Now, I assume by then, a lot of these people will have moved on to the next thing because they know all the facts are going to come out and it's going to make them look silly, but I can't know that. So right now, all I can do is counter crazy narratives when I have absolute proof, and I hope that I've done that in this video. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you leave a like on it. And remember that a lot of the people tuning in to a lot of the conspiracy theories about Charlie Kirk never actually cared about Charlie Kirk. In fact, the overwhelming majority of them never did. They have other reasons to be interested, but we won't go into that now. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you again real soon.